Good morning. Good morning. All right. All right. Woo woo. Episode 100. Good morning. Good morning. Congratulations to me. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Daring Dialogues. I am your host, Shantae Charles, and this is the season finale. My. If you understood my year last year, you know that this is an accomplishment. After having to take off some time to do what I needed to do with my health and building my life and building my strength back up, I am excited to be in the land of the living. I'm excited to be in good health. I'm excited to celebrate episode 100 of season 2. And just want to remind you that I will be taking a week break and we will start fresh with season 3, February 1st. Now, some of our readings are going to carry over into season 3, and that's okay. But I just want to make sure that you know that we're going to be starting season 3 February 1st. So if you're with us for the first time, you'll be able to start a brand new season with us and keep up with all that we do in season 3. All right, we do have some giveaways today. And let me guess, knowing me, I probably don't have my book I need to read from today. So let's see. Get my stack here. There it is. All right. Why So Many Gods is the book that we're reading from today. And I do have some giveaways. As you know, every quarter or every 25 episodes, I like to do a giveaway. And so episode 100, we have a few giveaways today. And we've got some exercise stuff, something for the organizer. I have an art piece that I'm going to give away that I created myself. And I have something for the reader. I have a movie giveaway. I also have a gentleman's hat. And I have a ladies' spring dress to give away today. All right. So first, I want to get into our reading for today. And then I did say that I was going to give you all some video reviews from last week. The videos that I was going to review. I'm going to review those today. All right. And in between that, we will do our trivia so you all can participate in the giveaways. All right. All of the trivia comes from either something we've been talking about in terms of news or something that we've been talking about here on Daring Dialogues. There are no trick questions for the trivia, and you just have to email me your answer at let me make sure I write it real big. Dun, 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 dun. This is where you need to email your answer. If you put it on the screen, that does not count because I have no way of contacting you. So please email your answer at reachshantae@gmail.com. Make sure you spell it correctly because it may go into somebody's never receiving spam. Okay, so reachshantae@gmail.com. Email your answer. And I know that we have people that can follow directions because all of the other prizes have been mailed off to the recipients and they've received them and are enjoying them. Okay, so we've got 7 things to give away today, 7 being the number of completion. Email your answer at reachshantae@gmail.com. All right, moving along. Let's get right into it. Why so many gods? We've been talking about occult practices. Let me refresh your mind on some of them that we covered already. We've covered quite a few. We have talked about astrology, and we have talked about black mass. which was pretty disgusting. And we've talked about dowsing, which turns into a form of divination. And unfortunately, that has crept into churches. We've talked about hypnosis, which is used in many, many nightclubs today, in some churches. We've talked about magic, the actual playing cards type of magic. We've talked about necromancy, people worshiping the dead. And that was where we last stopped. And now, today, we're going to be talking about Ouija boards and parapsychology. Parapsychology. Ouija boards and parapsychology. Ouija boards, making contact. Most people have heard of the Ouija board, right? Or we've seen it in a movie. I know there's actually been maybe 1 or 2 movies centered around Ouija board practices. They have been around in some form for a long time. People have been trying to communicate with dead people forever. During the 19th century, seances were prominent in Europe. People would sit around a table and wait for someone from the dead to speak to them. When someone from the dead wanted to speak, they tipped the table or banged one of the table legs on the floor. When a table moved or a table leg hit the floor, the medium or the person who led the seance had the ability to interpret the signals and signs. However, people didn't find this too exciting. In fact, many got bored at seances. So mediums tried to make it more interesting. They supposedly would go into a trance and speak to the dead. Some created elaborate mini-shows that were all fake schemes to convince people that they could speak to their dead relatives. One of the gimmicks that mediums came up with was a board that had lots of letters and a sliding piece sitting on top of it. This was the beginning of the Ouija board, although it underwent several refinements in the following years. In 1892, a businessman named William Fuld, F-U-L-D, developed the final form of the board and began mass producing it. Fuld made a fortune off of the Ouija board. He died in 1927 when he fell from a factory roof. Some people think his death was an accident. Others think he committed suicide. Soon after his death, the family sold all legal rights for the board to the Parker Brothers Game Company, who also makes Monopoly. They produced the boards ever since. You can walk into just about any toy store today and buy an Ouija board, though it is an occult tool and mechanism. So you have to ask yourself the question, what is an occult tool and mechanism doing in a toy store? That's another conversation for another time. All right? Basic beliefs. The basic beliefs surrounding the use of the Ouija board is simple. You either believe that you can talk to spirits who are dead or you don't. There are 2 kinds of beliefs about what happens when you put your fingers on the board and begin to ask questions. Unconscious. These people believe that when you ask the board a question, the answer comes because you're unconsciously moving the thing without knowing it. They don't believe that there are any spirits involved. Spiritualists. These people believe that the messages and answers coming from the board are of another world. Followers are called Ouija board users. How does one become an Ouija board user? You buy it, you open the box, and you follow the directions. Using the board is simple. You place it on a table or your lap, and then you get a friend to help you. You put your fingers on one side of the planchette or the thing that you put your hands on and moves around. Your friend puts their fingers on the other side. Then you ask a question and allow the planchette to move to an answer. You may ask either a yes or no question or ask a question that requires a simple answer that can be spelled out using the letters on the board. So what's the attraction? The attraction is supposedly communicating with the dead, being involved with something mysterious, developing psychic awareness and ability. What's the goal? Getting answers to things that only dead people would know. How does it look like Christianity? Christians believe that a spirit world of angels and demons exists. How is it different from Christianity? A Ouija board is a form of divination and is condemned by Scripture, Deuteronomy 18, verses 9 through 12. So it's not something that Christians should have in their home and be utilizing. What is their belief about God? There's no belief one way or the other about God or gods who rule, run, or influence this world. Figurehead, none. Afterlife, it depends on the person, but by communicating with the dead, they demonstrate some sort of belief in an afterlife. There is no position on the worldview. There's no sacred text. There is no worship service. However, the ritual or the rite is using the Ouija board, usually at a party or something like that. Did you know Ouija comes from the French and German words for yes? Geographic center, there's no geographic center. Number of followers, we don't know exactly, but Parker Brothers have sold millions of boards. Good morning, Lady Apostle. Important vocabulary, planchette, the thing you put your hand on to get the answers. When the planchette moves, you get the answer to the question you asked. Examples of beliefs in popular culture. In the movie Only You with Marissa Tomei and Robert Downey Jr., the plot is based on the main character using an Ouija board to tell her the name of the guy she's going to marry. And in the movie What Lies Beneath, Michelle Pfeiffer uses a Ouija board to figure out what a ghost wants her to do. Celebrity. Morrissey has an album called A Ouija Board, A Ouija Board. So what's the trick? There's not a trick in the traditional sense. Christians do believe that spirits exist, that angels and demons exist. It's just that God tells us plainly that we shouldn't have anything to do with communicating with them. Read 1 Timothy 4 verse 1 and Luke chapter 16 verse 26. That is a Ouija board. So while everybody's around here boycotting, I don't see anybody boycotting Parker Brothers. Exactly. Parapsychology. We're very selective about things that we like to boycott, by the way. Parapsychology is the reading of minds. The reading of minds. Again, this is an occult practice. Parapsychology is a relatively new belief system. It's actually not really a belief system, but it is more of an attempt to use science to justify a belief in the supernatural. It's probably best to break it down this way. On one side, you have the paranormal, okay, which is the belief that a dark or unexplained world exists beyond what our normal human senses can explain. Belief in the paranormal is an ancient belief, one that those who practice it have never had a scientific proof to explain. On the other side, you have science. Science exists in a world of facts. Scientists seek to prove things through formulas or other things they can see, touch, or even sometimes just think up. Until the whole field of parapsychology arose, science and the paranormal were really far apart. But in the mid-1960s, people from both sides of the aisle came together and began asking, is there a scientific way to prove that the paranormal world really exists? Can we scientifically prove that invisible spiritual or mental powers do exist? Ever heard of ESP? That's known as extrasensory perception, but we'll just stick with ESP. It's supposedly the ability to move objects with your mind, or even the ability to read other people's minds. ESP is where many parapsychologists began their marriage between science and the unseen powers of the human mind. In the mid-1960s, people began to ask, hey, I can read other people's minds and I can even move things with my brain. Can I do some tests to prove what I can do? Poof, parapsychology was born. Since parapsychology isn't a religious belief system, it's tough to pin these people down to what they think. Parapsychology is more of a struggle to prove things rather than a system of beliefs. But you can sum up what they think about the world through the following basic facts. 1, our minds have the power to do amazing things. We can move objects, read other people's minds, use our mental powers to affect the physical world. And 2, science can prove even unseen things. We can set up tests to prove the powers of our minds. Followers are called parapsychologists. How does a parapsychologist become one? Well, first you have to believe that your mind can affect the physical world. Then you have to want to prove this assumption. Some parapsychologists actually have advanced college degrees in psychology. There are many areas of study. What's the attraction? Proving that you have a superpower. What is the goal? Moving things with your mind and reading other people's thoughts. Finding answers to questions about the supernatural. How does it look like Christianity? Parapsychology involves talking with forces beyond this world and using your mind to control things. I'm sorry, I hope it's not freezing for everyone. On my end, it's pretty good. Good morning, Judy Morris. All right. Good morning to my YouTube live streamers as well. All right. So how does it look like Christianity? Parapsychology involves talking with forces beyond this world and using your mind to control things. Likewise, involvement in Christianity means that you're communicating with God, who is not of this world. Christianity also involves using your mind for thinking, but not for controlling things, people, or objects. How is it different from Christianity? The goal of Christianity is to love God, not to have neat tricks you can impress your friends with. Let me take a sip on that. Let me say that again for the people who like the supernatural and like to practice in the supernatural. Let me say that one more time. The goal of Christianity, the goal of the faith, is to love God, not to have neat tricks you can impress your friends with. Somebody say, stay on goal. So, who is their God? It depends on the person. There is no figurehead. There's no position on the afterlife. The worldview is occultic. There is no sacred text. There is no worship service. However, there are rituals, rites, and sacraments that go along with parapsychology. Some of you will probably have heard of 2 of them, or at least 3 of them. All right. But we have not really linked it to what it actually is. It's parapsychology. So let me tell you what those are. And some of you may have practiced it and you might not have realized it. The first one that's connected to parapsychology is acupuncture. That's right, acupuncture. Acupuncture is a Chinese practice of sticking needles into people in specific places to heal them. This is a form of parapsychology. The second one is astral projection. People have a couple of deliverance ministers I know talk about astral projection quite a bit. What is astral projection? Not all parapsychologists practice this, but many believe in it. Astral projection is the process by which you project your spirit self out of your body and then you float around in this world or in another plane of consciousness. All right? And many people who practice astral projection, they will reference a scripture, I believe it is in Ecclesiastes, that talks about the ending of life. And with the ending of life, awesome. Someone said, yes, you are on point. I learned about that in a course called Beauty for Ashes. And in this particular thing, with this silver cord, let me draw it for you. All right. What they say is with astral projection. All right. I'm gonna draw the little body. You have the person's body. Okay. And what they believe, according to scripture, they believe scripture references this. There is something connecting the human spirit to its body called the silver cord. And I believe the scriptures found in Ecclesiastes. But this is what they are actually saying or doing when they astral project. And there's a really good book out on this by Dr. Rebecca Brown. The book is called She Came to Set the Captives Free. All right. And so what they believe in astral projection, all right, they believe that you can project your spirit self out of your body, and that spirit self can float around in the world and go different places or go to another plane of consciousness. Okay? And what they believe is there is a cord or a silver cord that connects your spirit man to your body. And that if you are practicing astral projection and that silver cord is cut, you will actually die because your spirit will be disconnected from your body. All right. And they take this from a verse in Ecclesiastes that talks about when the silver cord is cut. In other words, when the human spirit is released from the body permanently, that's in reference to death. Okay. But people who practice astral projection believe that they can, again, project their spirit out of their body and float other places. And they can do this, and they make a practice of doing it as long as their silver cord is not disconnected while they're doing this. Okay. So just want you to understand what they're talking about when people say astral projection, or when people are dealing with spiritual warfare and they talk about a person's spirit came to visit them. That's what they're talking about. Astral projection. Divination. This is the process of trying to read different objects in a search for a hidden message. This is the process of trying to read different objects in the search for a hidden message. And then regression, a technique where someone remembers or is asked to remember an event earlier in their lives. It's usually used in hypnosis as a means to discover painful life experiences. Did you know some parapsychology websites offer UFO abduction insurance in case you're abducted by a spirit entity? Some people call it UFOs. Most of us call them demons. Geographic center is worldwide. Number of followers is unknown. Some important vocabulary. Yes, Prophet. Yeah, UFO insurance. Important vocabulary. Extrasensory perception, which is learning things supernaturally. Telepathy or telepathy. Paranormal awareness of another person's thoughts or feelings. All right. Psychometry, also called object reading, getting information about someone using one of his or her possessions or personal objects. This is why some of you need to be careful about your possessions and your personal objects, because you don't know what people are doing these days, unfortunately. Precognitions and premonitions. This is paranormal awareness of future events. Sometimes people say, I feel like I'm having deja vu, where they feel like they've been in a place before, or they're seeing something before, or they've heard somebody say something before. All right, precognition and premonition. Out-of-body experiences, the process of leaving one's body and traveling to different places or times. Now again, you can find some of these experiences in scripture, but you don't find people intentionally trying to make them happen. And I think that is a difference that needs to be made clear. All right. If you read the prophets, you will see some of these types of experiences that happen with the prophets. But here's the difference. They were not intentionally trying to make those things happen. Can I say that one more time? They were not in the process of trying to make these things intentionally happen. John said, I was in the spirit on the Lord's day, and then the spirit took me up. It doesn't say I was trying to make myself project out of my body to go up in the spirit. All right. Here's some more vocabulary for you. Automatic writing. The ability to write messages without being in control of your body. Psychic photography. We talked about that before. The process of taking pictures of dead people, believing that you can capture the spirit image of a person through photography. Here's another one. Thoughtography. The ability to produce images on film using your mind. Materialization, the formation of a person during a seance. And here's another one that most people have heard about through the Catholic Church. Maybe you have or haven't. I know I have. Stigmata. Marks on a person's body that resemble the marks on Christ's crucified body. Saint Francis of Assisi is said to have had these marks. All right. So these are all things that relate to parapsychology, which is an occultic practice. Examples of belief in pop culture. The classic example would be, Star Wars. Oops. Oops. For all the saints that went to go see that, oops. Maybe this is why I never got into Star Wars. I don't know. It just never appealed to me. The classic example would be Star Wars. The Jedi mind tricks and superpowers that the characters develop for moving objects are exactly what parapsychology is all about. Celebrity who believes in this. The amazing Kreskin, the world's foremost mentalist, has done telepathy and hypnosis on MTV. The David Letterman Show and other programs. Howard Stern had him on his radio show and said, I think he can really read minds. So what's the trick? Science, by definition, deals with the natural world, not the supernatural world. So you can't use science to prove these supernatural phenomenon. All right. So that was parapsychology. I hope that I helped you a little bit understand that. So when you hear people use these terms or you're hearing people describe certain things, you will know what realm it's coming from. It's coming from the occult. All right. Somebody asks you, oh, would you like me to, do some acupuncture on you? Well, now you know it comes from the realm of the occult. All right. So if you're a believer, you should know what your answer should be. All right. I told you all I was going to give you some review, but before that, let me go ahead and do some trivia. Let's do our first 4. Let me do 4 right now since we're about reaching the halfway point. All right. For trivia number 1, remember, email your answer at reachshante@gmail.com. Yes, I rebuke you, Satan. Well, rather, Satan the Lord rebuke you, because we don't really have the power. We have the power to call on the Lord to rebuke Satan. Satan the Lord rebuke you. All right, so email your answer at reachshante@gmail.com. This is for the lovely journal and the nightlight, because we know some of us like to write and read in the dark and not disturb our family members. So I'm going to add in a nice, lovely portable lamp light with a clip-on for you. And I like this journal because it has 100 inspirational quotes from famous people at the top. They kind of get you inspired for the day before you journal. All right. Question number 1 is for this. Who is the ruler of North Korea? Who is the ruler of North Korea? And we praying that he has more sense than the person who's trying to start a nuclear war with him. All right. Question number 1. Who is the ruler of North Korea? All right. Moving on. Question number 2. I told you these are going to be easy. They're not intended to be hard. Question number 2. We know that spring and summer is coming around. Some of us are still dealing with snow. But for those of you who aren't dealing with snow, this is a good, nice little exercise pack. You get a sports towel. If you're outside and you like to walk or run, etc., you get a sports wrist pouch where you can put all of your ID in that becomes cumbersome when you're trying to exercise. And you all know my favorite person, Tybo, Billy Blanks. This is his energy version DVD. All right. So for number 2, here's the question. Remember, email your answer to reachshante@gmail.com. Question number 2. What recently took place in D.C. affecting the pay of millions of government people? I know, that was an easy one, right? What recently took place in Washington, D.C. affecting the pay of millions of people? Got it? All right. So if you have it, you know what the answer is. Email it to reachshantae@gmail.com. Remember, first come with the correct answer gets the prize. Number three. We know it is the beginning of the year. We know people are trying to get organized. So I have a notepad here for you that is portable. Those of you who are, do you need all the correct answers to win a prize? As many of them as you know, you can email me the answer to. Some people have racked up because people didn't know the answer, and so they wound up getting a whole package of everything last time. All right, so we have a notepad. We have some magnet notes to keep you organized or keep your family organized, especially if you have young children, to keep them on task with what they're supposed to be doing for the week. And we have an organization pack for you. All right, for those of you who are trying to get more organized, receipt keeping, bill keeping, etc., this is a pack for you. Start your year off right. So question number 3, this is for question number 3. What does the original term American mean? And if you've been watching my broadcast at least the last 2 weeks, you should know what the term American means because we talked about it a couple times. All right? What does the original term American mean? Who were they actually talking about originally when they used the term American? Okay? Last one before we go into my review of some of these movies, videos. Number 4. Number 4, is going to be a personal art piece from me. It is in pen and ink, and it is already framed for your home. You can hang it or you can prop it. All right? I generally don't do this. I probably do it maybe once every couple years. But most of my art pieces I create are paintings. I don't do a whole lot of pen and ink work now, but I decided I want to give this one away. Most of my art pieces, I usually auction them off so that they can benefit the less fortunate. Most of the time, I usually do homeless shelters and women's recovery and retreat centers. All right, but I am giving this away. This one is called The Heartbeat of Worship. All right. So the question for number 4 is, what does submission mean? It's a definition. What does submission mean? Number 4. All right. We're moving on. Let's talk about these videos that I wanted to review. The first video that I talked about was North Korea. All right, North Korea. And it was a front lines report, and they were filming the secret state of North Korea. And a couple things that I got from the video is that the leader of North Korea is seen as, they call him Jang Jin-sung. And he was the senior propagandist for North Korea. His name was Jang Jin-sung, and he defected from North Korea to South Korea. And he said that the leader is thought to be like a god, which is why the people are somewhat under a oppressive kind of leadership. All right. And the leader is thought to be like the sun, he said. In other words, if you get too close to the sun, you will burn. But if you are too far away from the sun, they believe you will freeze to death. So there is this balance, so to speak, of people not getting too close to their national leader, but then people not being too far away from their national leader, because you won't have the provisions and things that you need in order to survive. In this film, they showed how the people literally cannot escape the voice of the leader. One of the things that they showed in the film is that there are speakers everywhere in towns, even where, especially like in the poorer areas, and they have these loudspeakers, and the loudspeakers are for the people to hear the voice of the leader non-stop. And they play these tapes over and over again, sometimes for as long as 3 months, non-stop, so that if you are outside of your house, if you're walking around everywhere, you are hearing the voice of the leader like he is omnipresent. All right. So it gives this idea that the leader is always speaking to you, that he's always watching you, that there's someone always observing your movements. And in the video, you can hear this voice going on loudspeaker. It was very creepy. I can't imagine having to hear number 45 all day, every day in the public square every time I left my home. Think about that. If you were forced to listen to someone's voice all day, every day in the public square, wherever you went, that person's voice was speaking over you. That's pretty creepy. I don't care what you think about anything else. That is a measure of control that we don't have in this country. Somebody thank God for that. All right. It also talked in the video, it showed that there was such a fear. Fear is struck in the hearts of the people, because if one person in your family does something against the government, they not only jail that person, but your family can be jailed up to 3 generations. Did y'all hear that? That means if you do something wrong, they can come get you, they can come get your children, they can come get your cousins, they can come get your grandparents, and all of them will be jailed along with you. Think about that. That's why there's a measure of control there that you don't see in the United States. So just think about someone who gets busted in the United States on a drug charge. Think about how many people get busted on drug charges. And then think about 3 generations of their family incarcerated because they got busted on a drug charge. So they could come get everybody. And one of the things that the defectors were saying in the video is that sometimes they would come to people's house and collect them for imprisonment. All right. They would collect them for imprisonment. And sometimes these people wouldn't even know that they were actually related to the person who had committed the crime. But they knew, they would say, oh, you are related to this person. Here's your genealogy. Here's how we traced it to you being a part of this person's family. So you have to go to jail too. In other words, I know we have problems in the United States, but that ain't one of them. Okay. Another thing about this video is it shows how the people who try to escape North Korea, how they try to escape through China, but the Chinese are not supposed to be helping them to escape, and also how they try to escape to South Korea. I know a couple weeks ago, there were 2 soldiers from North Korea that defected over into South Korea, and they actually had some of the footage showing how the people were shooting at them as they escaped to go over to South Korea. Now, the new news that actually happened yesterday was that the first part of that news was that North Korea agreed to participate in the I think, the Olympic Games that are going to be held in South Korea. And now the president of North Korea is calling for unification. And I just told my husband that a couple days ago. I said, because of what is happening with white nationalism around the globe, you're going to see the people of color, Asian people of color, are going to start banding together. Why? Because it becomes a fend for yourself kind of tribalism. So now North Korea is now saying they're calling for unification between themselves and South Korea. And what they said specifically is that outside help or outside military that's been coming over to do drills and all of that stuff is not really working for them. What they're actually saying is, people on the outside, we have our issue, okay? But people on the outside are posing more of a danger to us right now than what we have going on. I hope y'all heard that. All right? So North Korea is recognizing what time of day it is, and they're saying, listen, we're willing to unify and make some concessions, because right now they see us as more of a danger to the programs they have going on against South Korea. All right, I don't want to get into that today because that would be too heavy to get into, but let's keep going. A couple of things about what's happening in North Korea is they have people who smuggle things in. They smuggle films in to show the people Western culture, to show them things about living in freedom and all of that kind of stuff. And anybody caught smuggling goes to jail. So they try to smuggle in. Here's some of the things they smuggle in. They smuggle in laptops, radios, thumb drives, and DVDs. And what they smuggle in on the thumb drives are movies. So kind of that whole thing where you have portable movies. That's what they do with the thumb drives, to smuggle the movies in, and people can put them on their laptops and they can watch American films. If you're caught doing this, of course, you are jailed. All right? One guy, he was jailed for 3 years, and he said they beat him every day for the first 3 months. He went from, the guy they were interviewing, he went from 165 pounds down to 79 pounds in the jail. And then they finally let him out because they thought he was a spy, not just a smuggler, but that he was giving information back to another government. They finally let him out, and he said when they let him out, he finally defected and escaped, and now he works against North Korea. Okay? What else? The people are always being watched there. You never know who is watching you because the people are living in fear. If you know that your relative can get you sent into this prison, then if they're doing something that the government says for them not to do, you're going to tell. So the thing there is that people are always being watched, and you never know who is watching you. So far, 20,000 people have defected or escaped North Korea and gone into South Korea. Many of them changed their names on the documentary. They would not show their faces for fear of being recognized and being searched for in South Korea. They call their president the eternal president, and that the sun never sets on him, even though they know that this family, I believe they're into their 3rd generation of leadership. The current president, they say, models himself after his grandfather rather than his father, who was very, very, very harsh to the people. His grandfather was a little bit more kinder, so he tries to model himself after his grandfather. He was educated in Switzerland. He went to school in Switzerland. He was secretly groomed to be leader. And when he was 18, I believe, they brought him back home from Switzerland and began secretly grooming him to become the next leader. the state media never showed any photographs of him as an adult. So the United States did not have very much information on this family and on him until they unveiled him as the next leader a year before his father's death. All right. So he became the new supreme leader at 29 years old. And right now what's happening is people think that he is too young to be leader. And they're basically saying that he's kind of losing grip on his ability to have this absolute complete control over the minds of the people, because the more that they smuggle things in, the more that they show people living a different life other than one of restriction, all right, it's beginning to affect the minds of the people. It is getting more difficult to make the people obey, and it's getting harder to keep blind obedience going to the country. All right. So lastly, at first in North Korea, they did not tolerate what we call today private enterprise. They did not tolerate people trying to sell goods to each other. Everything was through the government. And if you were caught doing business, again, you were imprisoned. Then they went through a time of famine where people were dying by the millions, and people said, basically, forget the rules of this. I'm going to be trying to sell some things so I can survive. So now the state tolerates private enterprise, even though it's not legal, because the people are still recovering from a state of famine. All right. So famine created a need for people to be enterprising, and people started selling things to each other because at that point they couldn't depend on the government to feed them. They have entire stores over in North Korea where they actually look like it's a shop, and it looks like they're selling things. But when people went in with secret filming to say, can I buy anything in this store? They said, nothing in here is for sale. It's all props. So their propaganda, they have a propaganda machine where you can only watch what the country shows you. So if the country shows you in the main cities that people are doing well, that they're prospering, they put pictures up of these stores that have all this stuff in it, all right? But you're in a poor part of the country and you can barely eat. But they're showing you imagery that everything is all right. What they in essence are showing you are props on the television. Because when the people went to the actual stores, they couldn't buy anything. They basically just said, this is here for show. All right. So to the outside world, it's supposed to show that North Korea is a booming economy, but in reality, those things are props. Lastly, the dictator's dilemma. So the dilemma they're saying right now that the ruler of North Korea has is he can either open up and allow a little bit more freedom to his people to survive, or their regime will collapse, because eventually, as more people continue to bring things in, as the people's minds continue to open up, as they continue to steadily now start to push against this absolute and total control over them, it can actually collapse the regime. So that is the dictator's dilemma. All right, last 3 trivia questions, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about the other video, When Elephants Fight. Question number 5. Question number 5 is this lovely dress that I am taking off the hanger. This lovely dress from Talbot's. All right, it is a size 8. It is a spring denim dress. All right, lovely piece from Talbot's. And the question for number 5 is, what female comedian is demanding equal pay? What female comedian What black female comedian is demanding equal pay? What black female comedian is demanding equal pay? That's question number 5. And remember to email your answer at reachshante@gmail.com. Question number 6. Question number 6. And this is for the gentleman's hat. Let me bring it out. All right. Gentleman's hat. Nice chocolate and black. Size medium. Made by DPG. For the stylish gentleman. This is question number 6. Question number 6. Remember to email me at reachshante@gmail.com. And the question is, who was considered the original black bourgeoisie? Who was considered the original black bourgeoisie? We've talked about that several times. All right. Question number 6. Who was considered the original black bourgeoisie? And last question, number 7. Last question, number 7. One of my favorite movies of all time, October Baby. If you've never seen this movie, you need to see it. It's a very powerful movie. It's about life. It's about, I don't want to give away the storyline, but you need to see it. All right? Very good movie. This goes for question number 7. It is a Blu-ray DVD. All right? Question number 7. What day of the week do we cover health and finance? See how easy that was? Super easy. What day of the week do we cover health and finance? All right. So those are our 7 trivia questions today. 7 giveaway questions. All right. Now let me tell you about the DVD When Elephants Fight. When Elephants Fight is based on what has been happening in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, also known as Zaire. Okay. The movie is talking about how the Democratic Republic of Congo came to be a deadly conflict zone. It talks about how there are people who control the resources in the Congo that are not necessarily benefiting the people, and how the people have had to resort to basically smuggling their own goods to get money for themselves to sustain their life. I won't even say build their life, but to sustain their life. And one of the major questions in the video was the question, why are we living through hell in paradise? That is the paradox of the Congo. The Congo in the war that's happening is what they call a resource war. And it's not just a war about minerals, but it's also a war about human beings and human resource, or people that they're using to pull these resources out of the ground. All right. So there's a region of the Congo, and if I'm pronouncing it wrong, please excuse me. But there's a region called the Walikale region of the Congo, and this is one of the regions that houses lots of minerals. Okay. In 1912, you may have heard of this book. I know I heard of it and saw it, this book, growing up, and I got a copy of it. I'm gonna have to find my copy because now it was a classic, but I looked at the cover and the cover looked really interesting. So I do collect books. I do collect classics. I went ahead and got this book, but now I need to find it because I need to read it. In 1912, Conrad Joseph traveled to the Congo to work on a boat, or to service a boat there. And he wrote a book called The Heart of Darkness. If you've been in any English class, you have probably seen The Heart of Darkness on a shelf. But I can tell you, I've never heard any teacher tell me what that book was about. I've never heard any teacher recommend it as a reading from the classics. All right, but it is a classic book. The book is called The Heart of Darkness, and it is about the abuses that were happening way back then when Conrad Joseph, went to the Congo. He was talking about the abuses back then with King Leopold, who was harvesting ivory and rubber. And as he was harvesting ivory and rubber and creating these slave-like conditions, treating the people as slaves, if the people were not producing enough or fast enough, they would cut off their hands. All right? And you can actually see this piece of history is tucked away in the movie Tarzan. All right? The latest iteration of that movie Tarzan actually shows a part of this history of King Leopold and what he was doing to the people. All right? So Tarzan has a little bit of history attached to it. And the story in Tarzan is actually based on a true story of what happened in the Congo. So at this point, as they were harvesting ivory and rubber, it left about 10 million people dead through this whole process. All right. And in 1960, this continued on from like 1912, a little bit before that, because Conrad Joseph is writing about it in 1912. But this abuse under King Leopold continues until 1960, when they gained their independence. So if you think about it, this is around the same time that civil rights, the push for freedom, the push for rights is going on all around the world. They gained their independence in 1960. All right. And I also saw this film a while back, the story of the person that they democratically elected. So listen, they get out from under the bondage of Belgium and King Leopold. They gain their independence in 1960. They democratically elect a leader by the name of Patrice Lumumba. And the U.S. and other governments decide that they don't want Lumumba controlling the country. So the U.S. and other countries conspired and had him assassinated. This is not hearsay. This is history. They had him assassinated. His body was dismembered and disintegrated in acid. So when we talk about countries in Africa, and we talk about why are these countries the way they are, and when we fail to acknowledge our part in conspiring to put countries in a position where they are destabilized and they don't have proper leadership, after the people actually elected proper leadership, and then we go and undo their proper leadership, and then it throws their country into chaos, then we have the nerve to sit back and ask, why are they in chaos? That's some evil stuff. I don't care how you put it, okay? So they had him dismembered, disintegrated in acid, and then they put up a leader in his place that would serve the interests of the United States in other countries. All right? So this Congo makes cobalt and copper, which are minerals that the U.S. Department of Defense relies upon to construct equipment and war vessels for war. All right? Some of the minerals there are coltan and manganese, cobalt, and copper. The people there are forbidden to mine their own minerals. How do you do that? Okay, so because they're forbidden to mine their own minerals, now you create the illegal trafficking of minerals, okay, which then becomes smugglers. So they have all of this mineral wealth in the ground, trillions of dollars worth of mineral wealth, but they can't mine their own minerals. So now they're stealing their own minerals and selling them on the black market because they're being forbidden to mine their own minerals. That's like owning a farm, okay, and the government comes in and takes all of your resources out of your farm, but tells you you can't plant anything and you can't harvest anything from your own land. All right. So to destabilize the Congo, all right, those who were over the mines began to exchange minerals and mineral rights for weapons. What did this do? As they began to supply weapons into the region, like Chicago, as they begin to supply weapons into the region, now they have created these factions of warlords, tribal groups that they call, what do they call them? They call them soldiers, but they have a specific name for them. But we would call them over here, we would call them gangsters. All right? So black on black crime in the Congo. You have people shooting each other in the Congo. You have people terrorizing villages, raping women, children, grandmothers in the Congo. All because of these minerals and mineral rights and who gets the minerals, who sells the minerals, who distributes the minerals. So it's not drug trafficking, it's mineral trafficking, but it's the same concept. It creates the same wars within villages. All right. So all of this has kept Congo in a state of destabilization. All right. So there's a lot more. I won't go into it. There's a lot more that they talk about in the video. But the video is called When Elephants Fight. And you can probably find it at your local library. It talks about the role that other countries have played in destabilizing the Congo. It talks about, this was very sad to me and I'm closing. It talks about the fact that before 1996, because this war has been going on for quite a while, before 1996, there was no word in their African language for rape. Because there was none. They had to create a word for something that was brought in because of destabilization, pilfering, stealing of their resources. What was happening to the women in their community had not happened before this point. So they actually had to create a word for rape because before 1996, the word did not exist in their vocabulary. I want y'all to think about that, okay? As we close, think about that. So I want to thank you for your time and attention. I hope I'm going to be checking my emails and seeing some answers to these questions so I can get these prizes off to you all next week. I want to thank you all so much for those of you who have hung in with us all year. Well, all season. All the way up to 100. Again, we're going to be starting season 3, February 1st. We will kick off with season 3, episode 1. And I just want to thank you all for your support. I want to thank my We Dare squad who keeps this going, who helps us to provide some of these giveaways and offers So I thank you again. I hope that you will take some time to review this week, review some of our previous episodes. And remember, we also archive our episodes on our YouTube channel. So you can always go there and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we also run a live stream as well. All right. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness. So please go out in the world and be light today. And if nobody has told you today, I love you. All right. I love you with the love of the Lord, and there's nothing you can do about it. I will see those of you all who will join us on our broadcast. We'll be back on Sunday at 2:30 for our Life Nation broadcast. All right. Thank you again for your time and attention. Take care, and God bless. And I want to thank you, our viewers on our YouTube live stream, for tuning in. Thank you so much for my We Dare squad. And remember, share this video, invite someone to subscribe as we kick off season 3 on February 1st. Take care, and God bless.